So today I'm going to record for you a quick turn overview of Helionox: The Last Sunset. And I apologize in advance for the bad recording on this. I'm just using my phone here, but I just wanted to get this out there so you could actually see what a turn looks like in this game. I'll probably try to post a better version of this here in the near future. And I also want to apologize for the prototype version of this. You'll notice these tokens here are not representative of the final tokens in the game, and this playmat that I'm using is not representative of the final playmat. Even some of the card art is different in the final version. So I'm just going to throw all that out there. None of this is the final version, but you're seeing kind of an early prototype here. But I think you'll still get an idea of what a turn looks like in this game. So first off, I just kind of want to make a few setup notes. What I've done here is I've set up each of these 4 decks, and these are all faction-based decks. You'll notice over here I have a cybernetic deck, I have my defense deck, my transport deck, my bio deck. When I purchase a card from one of these decks, since this is a deck builder, I'm going to purchase it, and instead of it going to my discard pile, it's actually going to go up on top of my deck. So that's one of the key differences of Helionox from other deck builders. They actually go on top of your deck when you buy them. And as soon as you buy a card, you're going to flip over the top card of that deck to replace it. And you'll notice this is another cybernetic card that's going to replace it. So there's always going to be a cybernetic card available. Put that one back up there. There's always going to be a defense card available. There's always going to be a transport card. There's always going to be a bio card. So that's another thing. You're always going to be able to kind of pursue whichever strategies you feel like pursuing. And now you don't have to stick to a particular faction in this game either, but those factions are always available. In addition to those 4 decks, you also have a prime asset deck. This is just kind of an economy builder. Costs 2 to buy it. You see the upper right corner tells you the cost. And then down here it says you gain 2 when you play it. So pretty straightforward card, but an economy builder, good economy burst. And then this last deck over here on the right, this is the event deck. And every turn, you're going to play the top card of the event deck at its associated location. So let's just say that we are beginning the turn right now. Let's go ahead and take this top card. This is a lunar event. So this is going to go to one of the 5 locations that you see down here: Old World Capital, Lunar Base, the Martian Biosphere, Ceres Mining Colony, which is one of the asteroids in the asteroid belt, and the European Warp Installation. You'll notice this purple symbol up here. Here's the purple symbol here. I'm going to take the top card of that event deck and place it at its associated location. It's an inactive lunar event, so it goes here to the lunar base. And I'll explain a little bit about what inactive means. When this card first comes out, on the first turn it's in play, it is inactive. Now that doesn't mean that I can't overcome this event, but it is an inactive event. On the turn after it comes out, I flip this card over and it becomes an active event, and it has another set of text, and it just does bad things. So you want to try to take care of these as quickly as possible. But if they do become active, and they will, they usually cost the same. Tells you how much it costs to overcome the event in defense. So this costs 3 defense to overcome. It also gives you 3 influence, which is essentially victory points. And you can do that on either side of the event. It just does more bad things when it's active. So for now, that's an inactive event. So I've started my turn. I've played the first card of the event deck. It's at its associated location. You'll also notice each player is going to start here at the Old World Capital. So we are adjacent to this lunar base because, of course, the moon is orbiting the Earth, right? So this is the Old World Capital. I have 2 ships here. One of these is the other player. I'm going to play as this blue player for this turn. And one of the things you also do at the beginning of the game is choose an architect. So this architect that I chose is Elias the Prophet. And Elias is going to be flying around on this ship, going to different locations, trying to overcome these events. So at the beginning of the game, you start with 10 cards in your deck, and I've already shuffled this deck and drawn the top 5 cards. Now there are some of these cards are going to be the same in every deck, and then some of the cards are going to be different. There are some kind of custom versions of the deck that you can play. And so I'm going to have a few cards that are similar in most decks. For instance, this Sentinel prototype that you see here gives me 1 defense. Every starting deck has 3 of these Sentinel prototypes in it. Let's see what else I get in my opening hand. So I have 1 of those. Oh, I actually drew 6 cards here. I only want 5. So that guy is going to go back on top of my deck. I do have 1 Sentinel prototype. I have 1 Atmospheric Engineer, and this is one of the faction-based cards, I can tell, because it has the faction symbol up here. This is Bio-Faction. And then I also have 3 material assets. So these material assets are going to give me 1 credit. So I'm probably going to start off my turn by doing a number of things. I could, if I wanted to, I could spend money so I can gain 1 credit from this Atmospheric Engineer and put it together with these material assets, which would give me a total of 4 credits, which would allow me to buy one of these cards in the market. For instance, I could buy Replicant for 4 credits. I could buy Municipal Carrier for 4 credits. But just to kind of show you what the embassies are all about, and these are my embassy tokens that I'm going to use here, I'm going to go ahead and do that instead. So what I can do on my turn, and this guy actually works with embassies, he says gain 1 credit or gain 2 credits if you control 2 or more embassies. So I'm going to try to control 2 embassies before I play this Atmospheric Engineer. So I have a material asset. I'm going to go ahead and play one of these material assets, and that allows me to gain 1 credit. There's a number of things I can do with 1 credit. One thing I can do with my 1 credit is gain an embassy or place an embassy. So I'm going to place my embassy here at the old world, and that's because I am at the old world currently to start the game, so I have to place the embassies at a location that I'm at. So I now have 1 embassy, and these embassies are worth points at the end of the game, or they're worth influence at the end of the game. I can also do some other things with them throughout the game, and I'll explain that probably in a later video. So for now, I just have 1 embassy there. I'm going to go ahead and play 1 more material asset. I'm just turning these to the side to represent that I've played it out of my hand. So I played my 2nd material asset, gained 1 more credit. What can I do with that? Another thing that I can do with a single credit is move to an adjacent location. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up my blue ship, and I'm going to move over here to the lunar base. Now, if I paid 2 credits, I could move to any location. So I could fly all the way out here to the European Warp installation if I wanted to. But in this case, I'm only going to pay the 1 credit, and I'm just going to move here to the lunar base. So I've now spent 2 of my credits. I have 1 credit left. I'm going to go ahead and play that last credit, turn it to the side, represent I'm playing it. And I'm going to drop 1 more embassy. So now I control 2 embassies. What can I do with those 2 embassies? Well, for one thing, I can gain 2 credits instead of 1 credit off of my Atmospheric Engineer. If I control 2 or more embassies, gain 2 credits. I know the symbol is missing there. I apologize. I fixed that on the art already. Don't worry. I'm going to go ahead and play this Atmospheric Engineer and gain 2 credits. What can I do with 2 credits? Well, as I mentioned earlier, I could, if I wanted to, move to any location, but I don't think I'm going to do that this turn. I think I'm going to stay at this location and instead use that 2 credits to buy a prime asset. So you see the prime assets are up here and they only cost 2. Again, I could buy something from the market, but I don't have enough for any of them. This one costs 4, this one costs 5. So I'm just going to buy one of these prime assets. And whenever I buy a card, remember this is called obtain a card, and where do the cards go that you obtain? They go on top of your deck. So here's my deck. I'm going to place that prime asset up on top of my deck. Now what do I have left in my hand? I've played these 4 cards. I still have this 1 Sentinel prototype. Not much I can do with that, except there's still this event here that costs 3 defense to overcome. Well, I wonder if there's any way that I could overcome that event. Well, let's not forget about our architects. So this architect says, Cryo 2, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. He also says, Cryo 4, draw 2 cards. Well, what does that mean? So that means that I can put this guy into cryo sleep. I can put Elias into cryo sleep for a number of turns equal to his cryo count. So if I put him into cryo 2, for instance, he'd be out of commission for the next 2 turns. I remove 1 cryo counter at the beginning of every turn. And then I could draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. Well, I only have 1 card left, so that's not really going to help me too much. But I might try this ability, Cryo 4. I'm actually going to put Elias into cryo sleep for the next 4 turns. And It's kind of risky, but, you know, using your architects, especially early in the game, you only have 10 turns for the entire game. So you want to try to use your architects, especially early. So I'm going to go ahead and put him into Cryo 4. And what that means is every turn I'm going to remove one of these counters to represent that he's slowly coming out of cryo sleep. But I also get to use his Cryo 4 ability now, which says draw 2 cards. Well, I currently have this Sentinel prototype, which gives me 1 defense. I'm going to draw my next card, which I already know what it is because I just put it on top of my deck, which was a prime asset. That's going to give me 2 more credits to do something with. And what's my next card? It's another Sentinel prototype. So now I have 2 Sentinel prototypes, which are giving me 2 defense, but this event costs 3 defense. Is there anything else I can possibly do to overcome this event? Well, as a matter of fact, there is. I can look. I have not taken a location bonus this turn. And location bonuses are things that you can take once per turn. Doesn't matter how many locations you go to, you can only take 1 location bonus in a single turn. And what's the location bonus here at the Lunar base? Let me get that to focus a little bit. That says location bonus on your turn, gain 1 defense. So there's my extra defense. So that's my 3rd defense to go with my 2 Sentinel prototypes. So that's a total of 3 defense, which gives me the ability to overcome this event for 3. So this one costs 3. I'm going to overcome this event, and that's essentially going to give me 3 influence, which is victory points. So I now have 3 points, 3 influence, and I'm just going to remove that to say that one's not going to become active now because I overcame that event on the turn it came out. So that cost me my 2 Sentinel prototypes. I've already spent this other pile of cards, these material assets. The only thing that I have left is this prime asset for 2 more credits. And again, I could fly to any other location. And that might not be a bad idea. I know what's coming out on the next turn because the event deck tells me what the next card is going to be. It's going to be in a Martian event. So I could fly to Mars if I wanted to, try to overcome that event on my next turn. Or I could, if I wanted to, just spend this $2 and finish off my turn by gaining another prime asset. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to obtain this prime asset, pay the $2 to get this prime asset, and I'm going to take that card and I'm going to put it up on top of my deck. And then I'm going to pass the turn to player 2.